So this is the head of MI5.
Mhm.
And he had this to say on the threat that Britain faces.
Together has saved numerous lives. The headline split of our counter-terrorist work remains roughly 75% Islamist extremist, 25% extreme right-wing terrorism. But under that headline, much has shifted. Straightforward labels like Islamist terrorism or extreme right-wing don't fully reflect the dizzying range of beliefs and ideologies we see. We're encountering more volatile would-be terrorists with only a tenuous grasp of the ideologies they profess to follow. People viewing both extreme right-wing and Islamist extremist instructional material, along with other bits of online hatred, conspiracy theories and disinformation. Compared to
So on that key point there, Eunice, that he raises, where he says 75%, the threat that we face, 75% Islamist. Now, you wouldn't get that. Do you think I'm right in saying this? Do you think it's fair to say you wouldn't get that if you open your newspaper and you read the news about far-right riots or whatever else, and the far-right bogeyman, and, I don't know, Tommy Robinson's on the streets again, he's done this, he's done that, he's been arrested, and before anyone gets the knickers in a twist, I'm not saying Tommy Robinson is far-right or dismissing him or whatever else. But you get the point. There is a narrative, and it ain't one that suggests that we face the threat to this country that we face on the streets is 75% Islamism.
Exactly. And there was another stat that I saw. It was actually 90%. So it's anywhere between 75 to 90%. So it was only a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, where we had the riots and we have people thrown in jail by the Labour government just because they said something on Facebook. Yet actually majority of the terrorists and the threats in the country comes from the Islamists. And that coincides with the fact that Keir Starmer is trying to ban Islamophobia. So what are we supposed to do? Like, how are we supposed to criticize it? And a lot of the threat is actually coming from Iran, because I think in the same statement he said that we had to stop a lot of Iranian regime terrorist plots in the country. A lot of the people, for example, that work for Iran International, they need to be protected because there has been a threat on a few of their lives already. And it's just ridiculous for me that we have a government that, sticks their head in the sand and they have no real notion of reality. And that's why we should be able to speak about these things. Criticizing Islamic extremism and Islamic terrorism shouldn't be illegal, and I think more people need to talk about it. On a wider point of what I wanted to say beforehand about the whole immigration thing, and I think this is one of the byproducts of massive immigration from third world countries with extreme ideological backgrounds, right? The only way we can stop immigration is we stop them from coming in the first place, because once they're here, it's almost impossible for us to deport them. With ECHQ or without ECHQ, it would make it a lot easier for us if ECHQ wasn't so involved. But then again, it would be the same with the southern border in America. 20 million people have gone through the southern border, and there's people going from all over the world through the southern border to America. So the only way to stop is, and what we need the military, our navy, to block the channel between the United Kingdom and France. That's the only way I can think of, to be honest with you. And the only way we can stop immigration is to have the world being developed. The only reason people immigrate is because they don't have the same opportunities, economic opportunities in their own country. So the only way is to overthrow regimes such as the Islamic Republic and get growth back in that region of the world where people don't need the fuel to immigrate.
But assuming though, Eunice, that there are young people here who are Islamists, right? And they are, the head of MI5 there says they're reading extremist material on the internet, whether that be Telegram or whatever else, these encrypted apps. How do you de-radicalize people? That because you've just said you can't get rid of them. So what the hell are we meant to do? We just have to accept.
Well, this is exactly what I'm trying to do with my page. You have to be able to criticize bad ideas, and the more discussion we have about it, and especially for people from my background and people like you as well, you shouldn't be scared to be called Islamophobe if you criticize Islam. But then the problem is we have a government and we have social media companies that try to ban people that speak against radical Islam. That's point number one. So I encourage everyone to come out and speak up. Okay, that's point number one. Point number two is, unfortunately, and this was represented in a recent study, that actually people that are born in the Middle East or in an Islamic country tend to be less radical than Muslims born here. And the reason for that is that because when you're born in those countries, you realize what kind of, bad policies mixing religion and politics makes you, and that's why we are in poverty, that's why you're oppressed. So people that actually end up escaping, they're escaping that ideology, so they don't want to have that here. Whereas people that are born here, and I made a whole story about this before, where I was going to school, and I was going to school with 2 terrorists that were born in this country. And I was thinking to myself, like, how could you be so radicalized? How could you be so extreme? And those people, by the way, went in jail for 25 years for trying to kill a police officer. And they were trained by ISIS and everything. And I know this is one of the first things I actually noticed when I came to this country. I was like, people are not this radical in Iran. Mm-hmm. It's weird. Like, I went to school and we had terrorists in my school and I couldn't understand. I couldn't gather my head around it. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we have to be able to speak out about it, and free speech is so important. But so much of it.
The thing is, we have experience. We saw the oppression. So when people are born here, they don't have the experience, so they think it's a good thing. It's not.
The disinformation aspect, though, of shutting down debate on this and dissenting voices, Charlie, that is becoming more prevalent. I don't think that's a phenomenon that's going away. So, how do you get that balance right of being able to criticize bad ideas without being shut down for quote unquote disinformation?
Well, there's obviously you're right, there's the online sort of, disinformation stuff. And then there's just being able to speak openly about communities and the breakdown in terms of social cohesion. And, we've seen it time and time again. I mean, you talked about those statistics right at the top and what you see in the British newspapers and it not being as one. This is where, to be fair, Kemi, I think, has been able to speak out quite a lot about cultural differences.
She said that not all cultures are equally valid. That, can you imagine David Cameron ever saying that, or any politician like that? I certainly can't.
No, I don't think anyone would. And she referenced in her conference speech, things like and these aren't made up. Everyone is well aware of the issues that were taking place in Rochdale and the grooming gangs in Rotherham, and it was just because of a fear of being able to speak out in this country, because of fear of being labelled racist or Islamophobic or whatever, that council services, the police, education services, authorities, parents, community leaders, nobody spoke out about the appalling crimes that were taking place within a particular community. And I think that's tragic that we've got to a situation whereby you've got people that come into this country where there hasn't been the integration, first of all, but then aside from that, we're not able to just report crimes or call people out for what they are and what is happening in this country because we're too polite and too fear of being labelled something that is clearly for the birds. There's nothing racist about talking about immigration. There's nothing racist about saying, well, hang on, there's something not quite right about that group of men over there talking to that, white young girl or whatever. Do you know what I mean? We've become a society whereby we're unable to talk about things because of fear of treading on eggshells and cultural differences. And that's where Kemi, as I say, to be fair, I think has really gripped this. And that's something I'm sure she'll go back to and repeat time and time again between now and November the 2nd or whatever it is.
Yes.
The truth is not offensive. That's what we have to realize in society. Yes. The truth is not offensive. Yeah, everyone should be able to take the truth.
Stephen says ists and isms, the bane of modern society. So every ism and phobia I've been called under the book, I think it's safe to say.